The only thing that can stop them, the only people that can stop them are people in their own building. Nobody else in the Eastern Conference is going. If for somehow, some way, the Bucks don't make the NBA Finals, it's going to be self-inflicted. Because yesterday, I'm watching this game. A great night in the NBA last night. You get Toronto and Milwaukee in your matinee, and then you get the game we just talked about, LeBron Zion in the late game. And yesterday, midway through the second quarter, the Raptors are leading. The crowd, they're up double digits. The crowd's fully engaged. And I'm watching it thinking, this is the Raptors saying, we're the champs. We beat you guys last year. With or without Kawhi, the title still goes through us. And I had food delivered to my house right when that happened. And I went and got the door, told my wife and daughter's food was there. I got some plates, went back up to my office, and it was tied. I was gone for 4 minutes, and the game was tied. Oh, a nice little pasta, a little shrimp.
You went Italian.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. And from that moment forward, the Bucks were in total control of the game. And that's what they have the ability to do. So to me, the only concern for the Bucks, Antoine, is there is the Mike Budenholzer with great teams in the playoffs. He coached a 60-win team in Atlanta. That team's season ended with 4 straight losses. Coached a 60-win team in Milwaukee last year. That team's season ended with 4 straight losses. You might coach a 70-win team in Milwaukee this year. Will you make necessary adjustments if you have to? And the other question for me, Antoine, is Eric Bledsoe, who is having his best season as a Buck, who's playing really, really well as a third option for them. He was borderline unplayable at times in the postseason last year. They had the Malcolm Brogdon option. Malcolm Brogdon now plays for the Pacers. But it's going to have to be something like this because I don't see Toronto or Miami or Philly or Boston, any of those teams, being able to throw a real scare into Milwaukee.
The only thing that bothers me about Milwaukee, and they're very capable of doing it, can they go on the road and win? And they would have to go in Toronto and probably win a couple games there and probably in the Eastern Conference Finals. If they can go in there and do that, they have no problem getting out. They are the best team. They are going to get to the finals. I think the additions that they added puts them over the top finally. I thought last night if Marvin Williams coming in, making a couple threes to get him, a guy who's never played in meaningful games, now he's energized to play in meaningful games. I think Wesley Matthews on his team having some real toughness. And I think George Hill and Boozer is not scared to play him. I think he'll sit Bledsoe. I think he'll play a George Hill late. And
if Bledsoe's struggling in the playoffs again?
He'll play him. And Chris Middleton, to me, has got better. We don't talk about him enough. He's a 50, 40, 90 guy. He's playing unbelievable basketball. You look at even the game before this, when Giannis didn't play, I mean, Chris Middleton was unbelievable. His steadiness has been great. I think Robin Lopez, adding him to the team, too. Their additions gets them over the top. They kept the core together, and they brought in guys that can help their team. And then Giannis is obviously playing at MVP level, probably was going to get back-to-back MVPs. And he wasn't great last night, but 19 rebounds, 8 assists. The way he can continue to affect the game. And that
spectacular defense.
And that defense is unbelievable. They're head and shoulders better than anybody in the Eastern Conference. Barring any injury, I don't see them not getting to the Eastern Conference final. I mean,
NBA Finals.
NBA Finals.
Like, Jenna, I don't think they're going to face a Game 6 until you mentioned they're going to have to win a couple. They have more road wins this year than any other team in the league has home wins. They have been so dominant in all facets. And I'm glad you mentioned Chris Middleton because I said on the show yesterday that when we look at the dynamic duos in the league, Middleton's the least accomplished of any of the team. Harden, Russ, Kawhi, Paul George, LeBron, Anthony Davis, Giannis, Middleton. Middleton's least accomplished of any of those second-best options. But he's having a better season than Paul George is up to this point by far. He is having
the elite category.
Say it again?
The elite category now, finally.
Absolutely. I mean, 42% from 3. 21 points. The night that Giannis fouled out and he leads them on a 9-2 individual run in overtime the other night to steal that game from Washington. He's playing the best basketball of his life, and that's critical.
And when you look around the East, who's going to stop Giannis at this point? Like, who's playing well enough to jump out in the East and say, all right, I'm the one that's going to contain you?
The answer would have been Toronto.
It would have been Toronto.
That's absolutely right. The exciting part of this season is the lack of an overwhelming favorite. That you've got, for most people, let me remove my opinion out from this for a moment because I think differently of the Clippers than my Clippers opinion is way outside of the mainstream. And I think I'm going to be proven right, but there have been 1 or 2 times in my history where I've been wrong, so let's assume there's one of them. The vast majority of people think there is a top 3 of the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Bucks in some order or another, and then another very healthy, upper middle class of the Rockets, of the Raptors, of the Celtics, of the Sixers if they get their act together, of Denver. And now you've got, that's more than a quarter of the league that is legitimate championship contenders. The healthy Golden State, it was Golden State and then, maybe if LeBron and Kyrie both play a perfect series, they can take them 6. And then the Rockets, if with Chris Paul and James Harden, if they play as well as they can and win every close game, and they took them 7. But you knew it was Golden State was going to have to probably suffer an injury, maybe suffer a couple, and they still might be able to beat you. That is not at all what this season is. This season, to me, has 2 major favorites, but then a bunch of other really good teams. The last few years had one overwhelming favorite. So, Antoine, I think Tillman Fertitta is 100% correct.
I agree with him as well. I think you think about when those teams, when you thought about the first team, Steph, Clay, Draymond, used to be like, man, how we going to beat them? And then you add Andre Iguodala, Sean Livingston, those guys, you was like, man, they got a real good core. And teams used to be scared to play against them. Then when they added Kevin Durant, it went to a whole nother level. We already put them in the championship. We knew LeBron was going to get it in the finals against them and be a little handicapped against them. But it was a fear that we knew playing against Golden State, if you can keep it close, it was like, oh, okay, that was a good game. Yep. We kept it close against them. So I do agree with him on that opinion about that. But I think now, if you look at Houston and the way they've done their team and now even going to small ball, the way they just said, forget it, nobody's scared of the Lakers or the Clippers. They believe that they can be beat by anybody. And that's why you see Houston make the move they made and say, okay, well, we're going to get rid of Clint Capella. We're going to play small ball. You wouldn't have made that move if you felt like you were scared of the Lakers, because the Lakers has size. And you would believe that, hey, we need to have some bigs to battle Anthony Davis, to battle with JaVale McGee and those guys. But now teams don't fit it. They believe that their style maybe can win out.
And quietly, by the way, the Rockets, second longest winning streak in the league. Russ playing exceptional basketball. Russ, the Clint Capella trade, once again, Daryl Morey does something. The vast majority of the media says, the hell's Daryl thinking? And it looks like Daryl's smarter than most people.
Well, he's winning games during the regular season. The Houston problem, and as we continue to talk about the Rockets,
the postseason.
Yeah, and can James Harden get over that hump? He has to get over that hump in the playoffs where he's able to lead his team past the Lakers or the Clippers to get to the finals.
I agree with you, but the point I'm making about Daryl and the Clint Capella trade, Clint Capella, by the way, who's still not back with the injury, is Daryl and James are tied together, right? James going to be there forever, and Daryl will be there as long as as he wants to be. If Daryl were to have any concerns that I think you have, that a lot of people have, about what if James hits another wall in the postseason, what you have to have is the best version of Russell Westbrook possible. And trading away Capella and making it to where Russ has centers guarding him and Russ can just go full speed and nobody can match it has unlocked the best version of Russell Westbrook. So even if Harden has a playoff hiccup, maybe that doesn't kill you the way it did in years past, because we are now seeing a Russell Westbrook. But like the Rockets right now in the first round would play the Jazz. They've played the Jazz 3 times since they went super small.
Yeah, Jazz can't beat them.
Gobert becomes unplayable. The one time the Jazz did beat him was on that last-second shot, I think, by Bogdanovich at the end. But he's made Gobert, who's the second-best player on the Jazz, be unplayable in those games.
And I would say this, the last thing about the Rockets. They did make some moves who I thought were better, and I talked about this. If you're going to play small ball, you got to have the right personnel. Adding Jeff Green and DeMar Carroll are two better guys to play in small ball. They both can shoot the 3. They're better defensive players. They're also guys. So they're making the right moves to kind of fine-tune that small ball right now.
And by the way, Ben McLemore, who was a lottery bust, people thought his career was on the fringes, shooting like 43% from 3 for them this year. To me, after L.A. and Milwaukee, the Rockets have as good of a chance as anybody in basketball, including the Clippers.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.